WFLA Now.
The United States Department of Justice announced the filing of a criminal complaint against a Tampa man accused of trying to provide material support or resources to the Islamic State of Iraq, al-Sham, also known as ISIS. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Daisy Ruth. I'm going to see if we can get our estimated liftoff off screen there. Sorry about that, folks. That was, of course, for the historic launch that was scrubbed today. Welcome. My name is Daisy Ruth here with WFLA Now. Thank you so much for joining me. This was breaking news that came into our newsroom today that is potentially very scary. This could have been a very scary situation had this man that you're seeing on your screen right now not been apprehended by the FBI. This is Al-Azhari, as I'm going to refer to him as his last name here moving forward, as I give you guys some details from the complaint, the criminal complaint that we received from the United States Department of Justice today. He is 23 and he is believed to be an ISIS supporter. He planned to attempt and carry out an attack on behalf of the organization here in the Tampa Bay area. As you can see on your screen, this is Honeymoon Island. This is one of the locations that he scouted, according to the Department of Justice and the FBI, to commit an act of terror or a mass shooting. So again, this is Al-Azhari. I have his photo, his mugshot. In between some shots, you're going to see the Pulse Memorial as well, which we will get into. So we're going to dive into this complaint. He has criminal history that we will talk about that includes prior terrorism charges in Saudi Arabia, the DOJ says. How did he make it over here to the United States is a comment we've been seeing when we posted the story initially on our Facebook page. So have these comments pulled up over here as well, folks. So let's get into it a little bit more. Yes, so I'm looking at our article that I wrote right now here on WFLA, and I have a little bit more information now that I've gone through the DOJ report. I don't want to say I did not read it thoroughly. I read the important parts. There's a lot of communication. He purchased some of these weapons from a person he had communications with on eBay. So in the report, there is a lot of going back and forth with those communications, what text messages were sent, where this man was going, a lot in that report. So in regards to the Pulse shooting, Al-Azhari also allegedly expressed admiration for the Pulse nightclub shooter Omar Mateen and spoke of his desire to carry out a similar mass shooting. Again, you just saw the Pulse sign on your screen here, folks. But it goes a little bit, I'm hoping my Facebook Live didn't drop out. I'm seeing we're having trouble playing this video. Pardon me, folks, it's a slight technical difficulty. I'm hoping I can still see video. Yes, just apparently dropped out on that end, so I'll pull comments up over here. So this man, he was being monitored. The report says his activity over the past month appeared to match the escalation seen with prior lone wolf or homegrown violent extremists. We hear about that all of the time in these horrible attacks. Homegrown terrorism, lone wolf behaviors. So when he was scoping these places out, allegedly, according to the report provided to us by the DOJ, he traveled 2 hours round trip to Honeymoon Island without stopping or leaving his car, which gave the investigators means to think that he was scouting the location. He never got out. He wasn't going to Honeymoon Island just for a good time. Oh, Joe, I'm saying I'm talking too fast. I apologize. I always talk very fast. So he did travel those 2 hours round trip to Honeymoon Island. Didn't stop, didn't leave the car, was very fishy to investigators. He had been under surveillance prior. And he also might have traveled to the vicinity of the Tampa FBI field office to either scout that out or to gauge whether he was actually being surveillanced. So in Saudi Arabia, I see a couple comments saying, how did he get here? Well, in Saudi Arabia, he was charged because he planned to travel to Syria to participate in jihad and join terrorist groups fighting the government over there. He was sentenced to serve 3 years in prison in Saudi Arabia, and after that, he was removed and brought here to the States in December of 2018, where he has been since. He previously lived in California, I believe since 2019. The month is escaping me, of course. He had been here in the Tampa Bay area. So I want to make sure I'm pronouncing his name right. I apologize. Al-Azhari had communications with somebody on eBay, buying different things, different accessories for guns, and began texting this person, having communication with this person about whether he could get other things. He asked the seller at one point if he had a baby AK. He bought other supplies for lack of a better term, on wish.com as well. So this is the thing that really stuck out to me in the DOJ report that you kind of had to go through. This was on page 52, I believe. The DOJ gave us a press release that linked to the full report. So they gave us really everything that we needed to know, and then we could dive in and see what other interesting, rather scary tidbits we could pick out. This man even visited the Pulse Memorial in Orlando, but he drove past it slowly. It wasn't as if he was in Orlando for the day and just figured he would go by. He traveled there at approximately 2 a.m., which is when Omar Martin did conduct the shooting. It began at 2 a.m. at the Pulse nightclub. So that was something that really was shocking to me in the DOJ report. So I'm looking to see if there's anything that we have not. Yes, he reportedly rehearsed portions of an attack and the statements that he would make, either during or in connection to such an attack. We always hear of, I shouldn't say we always hear, but sometimes we hear of these people that commit these crimes, these acts of violence, saying different things to police, hollering out different things. He was basically, according to the DOJ, rehearsing that. And FBI agents arrested Al-Azhari on Sunday, it's important to note, after he took possession of weapons to be used in an attack. The DOJ, FBI agents were watching him, surveillance, so when he got these weapons, I believe one gun was a Glock with a silencer. So he is currently in the Pinellas County Jail on no bond. He was initially booked into the Hillsborough County Jail. I'm just reading the comments. So, yes, this is a very kind of shocking thing that came into our newsroom today during the space launch. So when we saw this going through the DOJ report, just absolutely just thinking about what could have gone on here on Honeymoon Island. I saw Disney World referenced it, that he had mapped out how long it would take to Disney World, which was rather chilling because Omar Martin was at Disney Springs, kind of scoping that out before the Pulse shooting as well, if you remember that, from that terrible, terrible incident. So we do have the link to the story here in the Facebook Live if you are interested in reading that criminal complaint in full. It is very lengthy, a lot about the communication he had with this person, where he bought these guns from. This person was actually in Texas. I have read the report, Colleen Taft, top fan, thank you. I wrote the article here on WFLA.com. So again, the United States Department of Justice announced the filing of this criminal complaint against this Tampa man accused of trying to provide material support or resources to ISIS. According to the complaint, Al-Azhari, who is 23, was an ISIS supporter who planned and attempted to carry out an attack on behalf of the organization. And it's amazing that he has a criminal history that included prior terrorism charges in Saudi Arabia, and he was still able to come to the United States. He served 3 years in Saudi Arabia and then traveled here, was brought here in 2018. Francine, yes, that is absolutely. Oh, no, that's not what I mean. Thank you, Henry Johnson. I appreciate that. I'm trying to see if I have any other notes that I can really hammer home. Again, he was being monitored. The report says his activity over the past month, so he had been monitored for more than a month. But that report says over the past month, he appeared to be matching the escalation seen with prior lone wolf or homegrown violent extremists. And this man is only 23 years old. You can see his mugshot over here on your screen. I have him up a couple different times before these shots of Honeymoon Island, which is where the DOJ, the FBI, says he did scope things out. He traveled 2 hours round trip to Honeymoon Island without getting out of his car, without stopping anywhere. So they were aware that he wasn't out there for a nice day at the beach. They believe this suggests he was scouting the location. He might have also traveled to the vicinity of the Tampa FBI field office to scout it or gauge whether he was being surveillanced or how far he could get. So if you guys have any questions, Chrissy, I'm not sure what day he was at Honeymoon Island. I wrote down a couple different things. Again, the most shocking thing to me here from the Department of Justice report was the fact that this man even visited the Pulse Memorial in Orlando. It is expressed in the report that he had admiration for the Pulse nightclub shooter Omar Mateen and spoke of his desire to carry out a similar act of violence. There are text messages between him and the person he was obtaining guns from or somebody else saying, oh, Brother Mateen took 49 people's lives, injured 57. So those text messages are mentioned in this report. But he did visit the Pulse Memorial in Orlando and drove past it slowly in the middle of the night around the time the attack would have been taking place. This was recently, so he wasn't there, obviously, on the night of the attack. This is within the past few months that he has been under surveillance. Brigantine says, hashtag Hey Daisy, okay, so if they already knew of him and did nothing before he caused harm. He actually was also arrested at a Home Depot where he worked for carrying a firearm. Obviously, a felon carrying a firearm in the state of Florida is illegal, so he spent the night in jail for carrying a firearm into his place of employment. So the report does not say why he came to the U.S. Let me find my exact wording of where I have that. Yes, he planned to travel to Syria while in Saudi Arabia to participate in jihad and join terrorist groups fighting the government over there, where he was sentenced for trying to participate with terrorist groups, sentenced to serve 3 years in prison, and after that, the report says he was removed to the States in December 2018. I would imagine he might be from here originally. Guys, I apologize. That is not something that I caught in the report. So that's something we will have to go back. And also, I do really want to mention that I'm not just the only reporter right now working on this story. It's obviously a very, very big story here in the Tampa Bay area right now. We also have, I believe, Tip Osowski and Marco Villarreal, who are working this report right now out in the field. They'll be live on WFLA at 11 p.m. You definitely want to catch their reports. I'm sure they are also both going through this document, talking to folks, hopefully with the FBI. Hopefully their agents have made themselves available. So be sure to tune in at 11 p.m. online or on air as well. I'm seeing hashtag Hey Daisy. The DOJ report says he is a U.S. citizen. So yes, if you're interested in that report, it is around, I believe, 60 pages. If you click the link to the article, we do go back to the article, or we do go back to the DOJ report. It's a hyperlink if you are interested in that. Go back over here. So again, guys, we've been live for about 15 minutes, and I appreciate you being with me to get some of these details on something that could have turned out much worse here in the Tampa Bay area. This man is currently in the Pinellas County Jail on no bond. I apologize. Al-Azhari. Muhammad Momtaz Al-Hazari is 23. I have my article down here, my notes further from reading the DOJ report. A lone wolf. His actions started to appear to match that of the prior lone wolf or homegrown violent extremists we have sadly seen here in our country the past few years. was scoping out Honeymoon Island. Here we have video of Honeymoon Island, what it could have looked like. It could have been much busier had this man been able to pull off an attack, for lack of a better term. He bought guns through somebody he had initial contact with on eBay, and also other supplies, again, for lack of a better term, on wish.com. And that Al Azari's has a criminal history, and it includes prior terrorism charges in Saudi Arabia. So that's, I'm sure, why the DOJ, FBI, the field office here in Tampa were keeping an eye on him when they knew he was here. But it's been within the last month that he started to, again, show those extremist tendencies. I'm seeing hashtag Hey Daisy. I hope he's headed towards life in jail. So if he is convicted, this is a max 20-year sentence in federal prison. I will tell you that. That is the max sentence. That is one thing I forgot to mention, guys. I apologize. I have it written down here on my paper, and I'm looking at my screen. So if you guys have anything that I might know, or you think I might know from this report, we'll take a couple questions. Go through some interesting, I shouldn't say interesting in regards to scary how this could have ended. So again, Honeymoon Island here on your screen. You wanted to have something a little bit more than his mugshot, kind of set the scene a little bit of what has been stopped. I don't want to say what could have been, but what has been stopped. So Honeymoon Island, he did, again, go out there. They tracked his phone, took about a 2-hour trip, found out he never got out of the car, and it seemed to be that he was scouting the area. Cruise Jimmy, hashtag Hey Daisy. Nobody else has been arrested in connection with this. And that's another question that goes off of that. Candace Fulton Adams, hashtag Hey Daisy, should we worry if anybody else is working with him? The Department of Justice did not say if anybody was working with him. He had communications in Austin, but as of right now, there is I do not believe any need to worry that anybody else was working with him, because the DOJ says he had that lone wolf mentality that many of these folks that commit these crimes do. Yes, 20 years. This is a maximum 20-year sentence in federal prison. That comes right from the DOJ report. He was arrested in Hillsborough County. Booked into Hillsborough, arrested in Hillsborough County, and now is being held in the Pinellas County Jail on no bond. And this, oh yes, this is Tampa. He praised the Pulse attacker, his actions even going as far to go to the Pulse Memorial in the middle of the night around the time the attack would have taken place there in Orlando, and drove by very slowly, according to investigators. I don't believe he was not involved with Mateen, who committed the mass shooting at the Pulse Memorial, but he did admire him. That's right, guys. That is what I know. This could have been a very different situation that I would have been sitting here talking to you folks about. But again, this DOJ report is very extensive. Marco Villarreal and Chip Osowski will be going over it as well. They will be live tonight at 11 p.m. in our newscast, Channel 8. If you want to know any more, I'm very curious to know who they talked to out there, who they found, if they talked to an FBI agent, maybe even a Pulse survivor or a Pulse victim's family member here in the Tampa Bay area. Candace, hashtag Hey Daisy, was he planning this for a holiday weekend? The DOJ report does not say when he was planning this, when he planned to commit this act, just that he was kind of practicing, rehearsing what he would say, his comments he would make during the attack, the comments that he would make before the attack as well. I'm just looking through a couple comments, guys, but They found out his plan because he had been under surveillance. If not before the incident at Home Depot where he was arrested for being a felon and having a gun. He worked at Home Depot. He basically walked in with a gun. If he wasn't under surveillance at that point, I would definitely imagine that would be it. So, yes, at least 50 people there. Catherine Smith, he was comparing himself to the Pulse shooter, Omar Mateen. So folks, that is, guys, what I know from the press release that the Department of Justice, the United States Department of Justice, sent us, and going a little bit further into the document. It's a pretty big document, 60 pages, a lot of, obviously, cop speak, for, if you want to call it that. I don't want to call it an interesting read, but as working in this business, it's definitely an interesting read when you know it has been stopped and that there is no threat. He had a prior arrest at Home Depot. Yes. So folks, just reading a couple more comments. And yes, this whole story is up now on WFLA.com. The fact that the United States Department of Justice filed this criminal complaint and he was arrested, this Tampa man accused of trying to provide material support or resources for ISIS. Al-Azharhi, 23, was an ISIS supporter who planned and attempted to carry out an attack here in Tampa. Honeymoon Island was scouted out on behalf of the organization. So folks, that is all I know right now. I'm going to be checking in with Chip and Marco, and I really encourage you to watch our broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. They are going to have the latest information, talking to experts, talking to law enforcement about just everything involving this case, how it was stopped, things like that. I'm very intrigued to see what they are going to find on their end. Obviously, I am here and read the report, and I'm giving you all the facts that I know right now, but I encourage you to read the article on WFLA.com as well. And guys, if there is any more breaking news today, we will be back live on WFLA Now. Thanks, guys.